This is the AI News Flash for July 21st, 9 a.m. UTC. First up, a Nikkei Asia investigation has found that 5 major U.S. technology companies have accumulated roughly $1.65 trillion in obligations that never appear on their balance sheets. That figure has grown about 8-fold in roughly 4 years, driven by aggressive spending on AI infrastructure. The mechanisms include data centers, structured as operating leases rather than asset purchases, long-term payment commitments under GPU supply contracts, and financing routed through special-purpose vehicles. All of these arrangements comply with accounting standards, but they widen the gap between what companies report and what they actually owe. Nikkei notes that these off-balance sheet obligations now exceed the company's reported debt, making it considerably harder for investors to gauge true risk exposure. With capital spending on AI data centers still climbing, the opacity of the financing itself has become a concern for the market. Second, Singapore's Personal Data Protection Commission and the Infocomm Media Development Authority published guidance on July 20th covering how personal data may be handled in generative AI systems. The guidance applies the existing Personal Data Protection Act across the full AI lifecycle, development, deployment, and post-deployment. Organizations may rely on the publicly available information exception when collecting from openly accessible websites, but material behind paywalls or registration barriers requires consent or another legal basis. During development, providers must issue AI-specific privacy notices. At deployment, operators bear primary responsibility for defining lawful purposes and regularly reviewing safeguards. After deployment, organizations must maintain workable processes for individuals to access or correct personal data used in training. The guidance states that this right holds even when training datasets are very large. The document headlined the inaugural Singapore Data Festival, which opened on July 20th alongside a voluntary transparency framework for generative AI chatbots, guidance on digital twins and federated learning, and a cross-border data agreement with Japan. Third, quantum computing firm IonQ and Switzerland's QuantumBasel have released research suggesting that hybrid AI workloads could gain an energy advantage from quantum hardware as systems scale. The team replaced only the final classification layer of a conventional language model with a quantum circuit. Converting text into numerical representations stayed classical, while the quantum processor handled just the final prediction step. Running sentiment analysis on IonQ's Forte enterprise system, the setup reached 91.2% accuracy, outperforming classical logistic regression. The energy claim is the notable part. The researchers project that quantum processors and GPU-based simulation would draw comparable power at around 34 qubits. However, that crossover point is extrapolated from measurements taken at up to 28 qubits, not directly observed. The authors themselves flagged the limits. The test covered a single task. The quantum hardware handled inference only while training remained classical, and the work is a preprint that has not been peer-reviewed. They describe it explicitly as a proof of concept. Fourth, Telefonica Tech, the IT arm of Spanish telecom group Telefonica, has partnered with Australian medical AI company Harrison.ai to deploy chest X-ray diagnostic support across Spain. The system analyzes chest X-rays automatically and can identify up to 124 clinical findings, including pulmonary nodules relevant to lung cancer screening. It was trained on more than 780,000 X-ray studies, each labeled independently by multiple radiologists. On the regulatory side, the tool carries CE Class 2B medical device certification, the highest assurance tier for diagnostic support tools. It is already running in emergency departments, primary care, and several regional health services, integrating with existing hospital systems through a web-based viewer. With radiologist shortages a growing problem in many countries, a telecom operator taking on the deployment infrastructure for medical AI is a notable development. That's all for this AI News Flash.